Hi, I'm Rita. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Life Worth Reading. And welcome to the mid-year book Freak Out tag. I have never skipped a year, I don't think, of this tag, and I wasn't about to miss it just because I haven't uploaded in a while. So, welcome. Let's talk about how my reading is going in 2026. Spoilers, it is not going very well. I'm not going to lie to you. The books that I have read this year have been mostly underwhelming, mostly just okay reads, books that I enjoyed reading, but I haven't found pretty much like almost any new favorites. It's been a dry ass reading year, but I'm hoping that the second half of the year will really give me all the 5 stars that I really need to read. Let's start with just a general reading update. So far in 2026, I have read 24 books. I'm currently almost finished with my 25th book, which is The Wall by Marlene Haushofer. I'm really enjoying this book so far. I'm not going to lie. I have been making a lot of annotations on it. I am currently 60% of the way through. I have less than 100 pages to go. It's a very short book, but it's very dense. It takes a long time to read. You're very involved in it. You're very just intertwined in the story. So it takes a long time to read, but I'm really loving it. And I think this will become one of the new favorites of the year, at least, or a standout book of the year. But anyway, getting into the actual tag, the first question is the best book that you've read so far this year. Again, it hasn't been a very good year, has it? I've had a lot of like solid 4 stars, but none of them like jump out as the best book that I've read so far this year. The only one that really does that is Between the World and Me by Tennessee Coates. I finally read this nonfiction kind of memoir by Tennessee Coates. It's a book that I've had on my radar for a long time. I finally borrowed it from my library and I read it, I think, in April, and it was truly a life-changing kind of read. I think Tennessee Coates is such a talented author. The way that he writes about race and about just the way Black people are usually treated in the United States and the systematic racism that happens over there, not just over there, but it's based on his experiences as an American. It's just very heartbreaking, but I loved it. The way that he exposes his ideas, the way that he builds not really a narrative because it's not fiction, but the way that he writes a story, his son's story, it's just incredible. So definitely my favorite book of the year. That was the easiest 5 stars I've given. It was an amazing book, and it really stands out when I think about the books that I've read so far this year. But I could not help but mention the major reread that I have done in 2026, which is of the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. Let me just pick them up correctly. I reread the entire trilogy. I started a buddy read with one of my best friends and my boyfriend, who absolutely fell in love with the series as well. And I just had the best time of my life rereading these books, even though it is quite heartbreaking at times and quite stressful. But I've had just the best time rereading this, and it really is a highlight of my year, even though there aren't new books to me. It really is such a standout from the rest of the books I've read so far. So I couldn't help but mention that this was one of the most beautiful rereads I've ever done, and I loved it so much. So really a standout of the year. Some books that I loved reading and that just made me so quite happy, even though they are devastating at times. The second question is about sequels. So what is the best sequel that you've read so far this year? And I only truly have one, if I don't count those rereads of the Farseer trilogy. I have An Unexpected Peril by Deanna Raybourn. This is book 6 in the Veronica Speedwell series that I am absolutely obsessed with, loving. Curious Beginning was the first book that I read in 2025, and it just started out my whole journey. I read 5 of the books last year, and now I'm making my way onto the other 5 because there are now currently 10 books out in the series. So I read number 6 earlier, I think in June already. Yeah, it was last month. And I loved it. It was a solid 4 stars. They all oscillate between a 4 and a 5, but this one specifically was a 4, but still the best sequel that I've read, the only sequel that I've read, but it would still be the best one probably because Deanna Raybourn just does not miss. And I love Veronica, I love Stoker, and I love their little relationship so much. They mean a whole lot to me. So greatest sequel ever. I cannot wait to continue on. The third question is all about disappointments. The biggest disappointment I think I've had so far this year, I've had a lot of them, but the biggest one is definitely The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki. This is a Portuguese translation. Oh my God, I have nothing positive to say about this book except that it was a book and there were words written on it, and an author took a time to write about this book, and write this book. But I have nothing positive to say from a reader standpoint. I did not enjoy my experience reading this. I read halfway through it and then, no, I think I read like 70% of the way through and I DNF'd it. I just could not keep going. I couldn't find a single positive aspect to this. This is a book about our main character, Benny, who is a teenager at the kind of starting point of the story. So we start with him as a child, but it's very brief. He loses his father. He starts hearing voices. The objects start talking to him. And it's just a very, very strange tale, but not in a good way. I love a good, strange book. This was not it. I just did not like this in the slightest. I cannot find anything positive to say. It was just dragging for me. I did not like this book, and I truly don't even know why, because it wasn't a bad book. I can't find anything positive to say about it, which sucks. So yeah, that was definitely my biggest disappointment. It hasn't put me off from reading other Ruth Ozeki books. I would love to read it till For the Time Being. I think that's what it's called. And they have other books that I would like to read, but this one is just such a flop for me. I can't deal even. The fourth question is, what is a new release I haven't read yet? I don't pay a lot of attention to new releases. I'm going to be honest. I have been picking up mostly books from my TBR that I've already bought. I have been picking up backlist books when I do buy books. So I haven't been paying a lot of attention. If I had to say, I would give two really basic and really popular ones. I would probably say Yesteryear. I do want to read that. I want to be part of the population that read Yesteryear. I want to know what I think of it. I want to form my own opinion about it. And then also in the kind of, I feel like in the same realm, I have Famesick by Lena Dunham. I desperately want to get to this memoir. I love a celebrity memoir when it's well written. So I cannot wait to read this one. These are two really basic answers, but they are true. I do want to read them. And then also about the most anticipated new releases for the second half of the year. This one I pay even less attention to. I just sometimes go on Goodreads and I see what will be coming out, and I like put things in my want to read if I think that they sound interesting, but I don't keep up with just knowing what books are coming out each month. But I did see yesterday that Riley Sager had a new book out that sounded really interesting. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I'll put it in the cover. And I read the synopsis. It's about an island in which 5 mediums went missing, and then like there's a whole film that's going to be set there, and it's about our main character who's an actress and she comes back to the island, something like that. It sounded interesting. The early reviews have been good. Riley Sager is definitely a hit or miss author, but I am kind of excited about this one. I skipped his last couple of releases, but this one actually sounded quite appealing. So if the reviews keep being as good as they are until release date, I will probably give it a try. The sixth question is the biggest surprise. So the book that you weren't expecting to love, I guess. My answer is a book that I have heard no one else talk about. It just recently come out, and it's Afternoon Hours of a Hermit by Patrick Cornell. This was such an interesting reading experience. I listened to the audiobook. It's quite short, but it's basically about our main character who has transitioned, and he has lost his brother when he was younger to the S word. And so he's still trying to uncover it, and he comes back to his hometown, and it's all about that, but it's also mostly about his transition. And the interesting part is that it's a sequel to a book that this author released earlier before he transitioned as well. So I think that the book has been re-released under Patrick's name, but it's such an interesting story because both the main character and the author have transitioned, and it's really all about that. And I think it's such a beautiful parallel of the struggles that both the author and the main character have to go through. It's very meta in that sense. The character in the book is also a writer, so it's very meta in that sense. It was such an interesting book. I didn't feel very compelled to read the first one. I don't think you have to read the first one to read this one, but it was such an interesting experience as well. A great book. I read it during Pride Month, and it was such an interesting experience. Definitely a surprise. I cannot wait to see what Patrick Cornell does next because this was very, very interesting and I would highly recommend it. Question 7 is if you have any new favorite authors. Any new favorite authors? I have read 2 books so far this year by Jamaica Kincaid. This is Autobiography of My Mother. This was the most heartbreaking one, I think, that I've read so far, and I've enjoyed them both. I wouldn't say Jamaica is a new favorite author, but it's an author that I really enjoyed reading. I still have Lucy to read from them on the TBR, so I can't wait to read that soon. But yeah, just an author that I really enjoyed reading. Such a different writing style. The narrative are very complex. We have a lot of unlikable characters, a lot of colonial debriefing as well because it is set in the Caribbean. So there's a lot about British imperialism as well. Such an interesting author that I really enjoyed reading. Then I would also say Tony Tulathimuth. I don't know if Rejection was just a one-time kind of thing, but this book was such a wild card. I knew that I was going to enjoy it, but it really is a sick book sometimes. But I think that what makes this author such a great one is the way that he can mimic people's voices, especially in really unlikable internet archetypes. He was done so well. I hated every single one of these characters, but I was supposed to, and he just voiced them so well that it's kind of surprising, and it's kind of like, okay, what are you actually hiding? Because how do you know how to write from the perspective of such despicable characters? But I think that he really is a really talented author because of that, because not a lot of people can just place themselves in the POV of such despicable characters and do such a good job at it. So I can't wait to see what he does next. Definitely an author that I'm going to be looking out for. And yeah, just a wild reading experience. I'll tell you that much. And also probably Tennessee Coates, because Between the World and Me was so brilliant. I think that the way that he wrote was just magnificent. So that's probably one other author that I'm going to be on the lookout for and that I want to read the backlist of because, wow, that was such a brilliant, genius book. In terms of new favorite characters, I recently finished The Dutch House by Ann Patchett. This is a book that, oh my God, it has been on my radar for years and years and years, and I finally read it. I enjoyed it. It was a 4-star. I was expecting to like it a little bit more than I did. But my favorite character is definitely Maeve. Maeve was such a wild, interesting character. So beautifully written. I loved everything about her. Such a compelling character that you really care for. So when I think about a new favorite character, so not the Veronica Speedwell series or anything like that, Maeve really comes to mind. I loved the way she was written. I loved her character arc in this book. Such a beautiful friendship between these siblings, and I love the way that the author wrote Maeve and the way that the main character, who's our narrator, talks about Maeve, thought about her sister. So just a beautiful description of a character that I really cared for and that I wish could have been my friend in real life. The next question is a book that made me cry. Books just don't make me cry, I fear. I haven't cried. I had tears in my eyes when I read Hamnet last year, but I just don't cry at books. I cry at everything else except books. I don't know. I just don't cry when I'm reading. But a book that made me upset would probably be Autobiography of a Mother, of My Mother by Jamaica Kincaid. That was a very upsetting book. What else? Obviously, Between the World and Me was very upsetting. I also listened to Know My Name by Chanel Miller, which was also very upsetting. Things in Nature Merely Grow by Yun Lee was very upsetting. But yeah, I just didn't cry. But they were very upsetting books. And in contrast, I mean, the next question is a book that made me happy. And as I was looking at my reading journal to see what books I read so far this year, oh my God, I've been reading some really depressing books. The only book that made me happy was An Unexpected Peril. Like, girl, I need to be picking up some happier books because I could not think of a single book that made me happy except for Veronica Speedwell. So I guess that is a wake-up call for me to pick up more silly, goofy, happy books in the later half of the year because I'm really missing out. I miss being happy when I'm reading a book. So yeah, I don't have a lot to say there. Just Veronica Speedwell, I guess. Next up, we have Best Book to Movie Adaptation. I don't have an answer for this one. The last one that I've seen was Project Hail Mary, which I really loved. The book was a 5-star for me. The movie was 5 stars for different reasons, maybe like a 4.5, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to spin the question and say a book that I think would make a great adaptation, and that is definitely Wild Ark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. This is a book that I think would make a beautiful movie adaptation. I think the setting is incredible. It's very isolated, beach, but also cold. Just a great setting, I think, for a movie or a limited TV show. So I think that this would be a beautiful adaptation, and I would really, really love seeing that because this was a great book. I thought I would like it more than I did. It was, again, a solid 4-star, but just not a new favorite. But I think that this could really make a beautiful, beautiful, like visually stunning film. So this is definitely the one that I would pick to get an adaptation out of. The next question is most beautiful books that you've bought so far this year. I have a couple of them. The last 2 books that I bought actually are quite beautiful. I bought Stag Dance by Terry Peters. I love Detransition Baby. I've been looking out for this book ever since it came out, I think last year, 2024 maybe. But I love this cover so much. The hot pink, the stags, it's stunning. So definitely this one. I also bought Salt Slow by Julia Armfield, who is one of my favorite writers, and I love the cover as well. It's a short story collection, both of these are, and I love both of these authors. And then finally, I would say that I bought 2 Veronica Speedwell hardcovers, the original American ones, but I think the one that I have to show you is definitely my favorite one in the series, which is a 4th installment, A Dangerous Collaboration. This book is just gorgeous. I gasped when I opened up this package. Like, this is everything to me. So definitely the most beautiful book that I've bought so far this year. It's gorgeous. It's stunning. I will never get rid of it. And I am a changed woman for having this book now. And the last question is also always a tricky one. Like, what are some books that you still need to read this year? Girl, all of them. Literally all of them. Every single book that's on my TBR, every single book that's on my Kindle TBR. I would love to read every single book ever. I really don't have an answer for this one. I just want to read everything. That's it. I just want to read everything. I don't have a set TBR for the rest of the year. I just want to have fun, more fun than I've had in the first half. And I hope that I enjoy the books more than I have in the first half. And that's really all that I want. So I still have a lot of books that I want to read in 2026, but not any specific titles that I would like to share at the moment. But yeah, that's it. So thank you so much for watching this mid-year book tag. I hope that your reading year is going better than mine. I hope that you found some truthful bangers out there. I hope that you're having a great reading time. And I am trying to make a little comeback on YouTube again. How many comebacks do I get? I don't know. But I'm also filming a vlog at this point that I thought would come out before this one, but I think that's no longer true. I am just doing my best to be a reader again, to be a YouTuber again. So let's just see what happens. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a great 2026. And yeah, I will see you hopefully in my next one. So bye.